my gosh, here we go, recording. This is so strange. I was supposed to be giving this presentation to the audience for sports talk at Calle Serrano, but the internet connectivity had other plans. So here we are, me and the camera, attempting to give you a taste of my presentation in 10 minutes or less. So I hope I'll not ramble on too much. For those of you who have stumbled onto this video, my name is Sarah Ochwada. I am a sports and entertainment lawyer based in Nairobi, Kenya. I teach sports and entertainment law at Strathmore University. I'm also a visiting lecturer teaching international sports law at ISDE in Madrid. And I practice sports law, and I'm also an arbitrator appointed to the Qatar Sports Arbitration Foundation, the Football Kenya Federation, and I've arbitrated matters for the Athletics Kenya Federation as well as for Cricket Kenya. So that's me in a nutshell. Now, what I was supposed to be presenting on today are about the trials, the triumphs, and the tribulations of football in Kenya. I know. Kenya is known for running, but trust me, football is a lot bigger in Kenya than athletics. In terms of audience and fan engagement, football is way more popular than athletics. And so I'm going to give you a breakdown of how exactly football is run in Kenya, some of the very interesting cases that have happened, and some of the things that are happening in order to try and get football back now that we're dealing with a COVID crisis at the moment. So let me see if I can arrange the thoughts in my head so that I don't ramble on for like 20 minutes. So, Football Kenya Federation, let's start from there. Football Kenya Federation runs football in Kenya, right? So, this is the one and only federation which runs football. It organizes tournaments and the leagues, it registers clubs and players. But before Football Kenya Federation came into being, there was like this whole Game of Thronesy type of election, political push and pull between two bodies. One was known as Kenya Football Federation, KFF, and the other one was known as Kenya Football Limited, KFL. So these two bodies were at loggerheads. FIFA, being the daddy that it is, came down on these two guys and told them, get your act together or we will ban you. We will not allow you to participate in international football, even across your border with your neighbor Uganda. So these two warring factions made peace, got themselves together very nicely, and now what we have is Football Kenya Federation. And FKF, the model of FKF is a society model. So it's an association, it's run by a constitution similar to its mommy or daddy FIFA, which has statutes. It is a democratic institution, which means its executive is actually elected into office by the various clubs. Which reminds me, currently there's a big battle about elections, football elections in Kenya, because they've been postponed twice, but that, you know what, that's a story for another day. It's a story for another day. So back to the organization of football in Kenya. FKF, its membership is the various clubs and academies which organize football in Kenya. And within FKF, there are also judicial bodies. So these judicial bodies deal with disputes, whether it's contractual disputes, player status disputes, ethical disputes, disciplinary situations, such as match fixing, which unfortunately Kenya has been in the spotlight for. And we have several different bodies which deal with disputes within FKF. Let me try and name a few of them. So the Player Status Committee deals with player status contracts. Okay, so if you signed a contract, if you're moving from becoming an amateur to a professional, but your contract wasn't very well crafted, go to the Player Status Committee. It also deals with issues to do with age manipulation and for minors, especially those minors who sign professional contracts with either clubs or academies, but there's a situation to do with their age, you would have to go through the player status committee. And then you have the Football Kenya Federation Arbitration Tribunal. So this is a tribunal within FKF, which is formed to settle disputes between its members. So members being clubs versus clubs, or coaches versus clubs. So if you have those kind of issues, then you go to the FKF Arbitration Tribunal. And then you have the FKF Independent Disciplinary and Appeals Committee. So once decisions have been made by these lower committees, and there are aggrieved parties, and these cases will be brought to the FKF Independent Disciplinary and Appeals Committee. Now, this committee is very interesting because it not only deals with FKF matters alone, it also deals with matters which come from the Kenya Premier League. So the Kenya Premier League, it's an interesting situationship. We can call it that. Okay, it's not a situationship. It's a contractual relationship. The Kenya Premier League is the top tier league in Kenya, and it's run by an organization known as the Kenya Premier League Limited, which is a company limited by guarantee. So this company has a contract with Football Kenya Federation, which allows the company to run the top tier Premier League. The members of its board are members who have clubs which are participating in the top tier league. So if there are any disputes which come from the Kenya Premier League, they go to what is known as the IDCC, the Independent Disciplinary Complaints Commission of the Kenya Premier League. So if there are any aggrieved parties, then those aggrieved parties can appeal to the FKF Independent Appeals Committee. A little confusing, but I hope we're together up until that point. So those are the judicial bodies within FKF. Now, why did I mention these judicial bodies within the FKF? Because FIFA requires for its federations to have national dispute resolution chambers. But we do have situations where footballers, who are aggrieved about their contracts, do not want to go into any of these dispute resolution committees because they feel as though those committees might not be well placed to handle their grievances. So footballers take their matters to a body known as the Sports Disputes Tribunal. So the Sports Disputes Tribunal is a very interesting hybrid. It is an institution which is formed by law in Kenya, by the Sports Act in 2013. So the Sports Act came up in 2013 and established 5 bodies to assist the government from divesting its interests in running not just football, but running sports in Kenya. So of these 5, let me mention the 2 which are important to football. There is the Sports Registrar's Office and the Sports Disputes Tribunal. So the Sports Registrar's Office is in charge of registration of any entity which is dealing with sports in the country, and the Sports Disputes Tribunal is in charge of dealing with any disputes which federations or clubs have accepted to dispense with at the tribunal, in a nutshell. However, we've had a few cases where even FKF itself has taken matters before the Sports Disputes Tribunal and has gotten several decisions. Whether they are adverse or they have been helpful, they have had decisions from the Sports Disputes Tribunal. Unfortunately, FIFA does not look very kindly on some of the decisions which have come up from the Sports Disputes Tribunal for the following reasons. According to FIFA, hey, we told you guys, you need to come up with your own national dispute resolution chambers. And if that's the case, then why are you taking your matters before the Sports Disputes Tribunal, which is a body which can be considered to be an arm of government, and any decision that comes from there will have an adverse effect on football relations, not just for Kenya, but it will also trickle to FIFA regulations and statutes. So we have a lot of conflict between FIFA regulations and national law in the operation of FIFA regulations. So right now there's a situation. A situation has been brewing for a while concerning elections which have been postponed or cancelled at least twice for Football Kenya Federation, and FIFA is not having it. So they decided to call a meeting between the Sports Disputes Tribunal, Football Kenya Federation, and themselves, as well as the Ministry of Sports, and just try and figure out a way forward for Kenyan football, because this is serious. So that's what they've been doing. In the meantime, it's the players who will suffer, because if you do not have a functioning body, then where would they go? How will they have a pathway into international transfers, which right now have been curtailed very deeply because of COVID? But before COVID, we had quite a number of Kenyans who are actually playing abroad. About 40 or so Kenyan players are in professional teams abroad, in Serbia, Canada, Japan, the United States, just to name Oman, to name a few. But we're increasingly seeing, oh yeah, Zambia is a favorite to transfer Kenyans to the Zambia league to play as well. So we do see a lot of Kenyans who are being transferred to various jurisdictions to ply their trade as it is. But because of COVID, they've been restricted, right? They're here with us. They're here with us. And we're not sure when or how the different jurisdictions are going to be treating COVID over the next few months, because it's affected seasons, league transfers, new registrations. It's horrible. And now we're seeing a situation where countries are placing restrictions. So, like, for example, the EU has restricted movement or entry from several countries, with the exception of a few. So from East Africa, for example, Rwanda is the only country which made the list. So Rwanda is very well placed to try and get a lot of its players into the European leagues if they're very serious about it. So that's where it is at the moment. What else have I missed out on explaining? Oh yes, the players also have a welfare association known as the Kenya Footballers Welfare Association, KEFWA, which has attempted to help them with contractual issues or even just general welfare once you retire. They're still trying to get their confidence as a welfare association, because we are yet to have like collective bargaining agreements which would really help players and their contracts, because right now what we have are template contracts which are used by various clubs, although we also do have a very strong club licensing regime or club licensing regulations in Kenya by the Football Kenya Federation. So if those club licensing regulations were actually very well implemented, a lot of these issues we're seeing right now in Kenyan football would be taken care of. And one of the main issues is, how do you fund a club? There's a heavy reliance on sponsorship. And now with COVID, which has been both a blessing and a curse, it's showing people that you need to create value for money. And you can't just go around begging, essentially, for sponsorship all the time. So find something, create value so that you can get your money, right? I think I have done more than 10 minutes. So what I will do is stop my presentation here because I have a feeling people got bored or dropped off. But you will be able to find me on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook at Snow Legal. So that's at SNOLEGAL. If you have any questions, more than happy to listen to you. You can also find me on LinkedIn. My name is Sarah Ochwada. Or just drop a comment on, this YouTube video, which I hope is still going up on YouTube, and I'll have a look and respond from there. So I hope you have found this useful. I'm sorry that the gods of the interwebs decided to not let me have this presentation with the rest of the wonderful panel from Egypt and Nigeria, but I do hope that you've taken a lot out of this and you've learned a little bit about my corner of the world in Kenya. Goodbye.